Happy New Year, Munchkins. I wish everyone health and all the other good stuff. So, everything that follows happiness, peace, joy, and a great sense of self and belonging in the world for everyone. I haven't done a video in a while, and I wanted to make one for the new year, especially given that I've been thinking about the one that I did last year, where things weren't going so great. I was saying how happy I was that I survived and how proud I was of how amazing Jan had been for me and things like that. But I was functioning at about, I think, 5 or 8% back then. And things were pretty bleak. I mean, I had high hopes for 2015, but 2014 had been a terrible year. Probably in absolute terms, the worst of my life, although it's difficult to quantify that way, seeing as it was also maybe the best of my life because I finally got a diagnosis. So, you know, best, worst kind of depends which side of the coin you're looking at. 2015 was definitely good and much better and much easier. So I'm very grateful for that, and a whole year of healing has brought me to where I am today. In my previous video, I spoke of where I am at in terms of my health, and it's keeping up. I don't expect it to go down. I do believe that I'm done dealing with Lyme disease, um, and that it's not something that's going to come back or flare up or anything like that. Given how my healing progression happened, I don't see how um, the illness would return, because I do believe it is gone from my body. And if it's not entirely gone from my body, then there was a definite point where my immune system said, I'm taking over here. Borrelia is not going to affect you as Lyme disease anymore. Um, and so it's just been continuing that way, and I am still functioning at, I would say, 95%. Some days I don't feel at 95%, but I'm definitely 95% recovered from the Lyme disease. But then there are days where I still struggle with symptoms, and it is quite difficult on those days because, um, as I've probably made clear in many of my videos, the last now 14 years have been quite traumatizing in many ways. Trying to get well, trying to get answers has been traumatizing, in a very real way. I don't use that term lightly. And so when I do have things that, surface, or symptoms that don't quite go away, like the constant headache or migraine state that still hasn't quite gone away, some days I get discouraged and I say, why is this ever going to end? And then I remember of how horrible I felt, a year ago, and how far I've come. And so I use that to my own advantage and to remind myself of the incredible healing powers of the human body and the human mind. And I hope that it can remind you as well, because if you've followed me at all, I'm certain there are moments where you've wondered if I could make it out, of it in a healthy fashion, and you've wondered, well, a body that's sick cannot possibly get well again. So, um, but it really can. I tried when I was very sick to keep believing that. Some days it was more difficult. Jan held that up for me a lot, when it was more difficult for me. Um, but I went from, unable to stand for 5 seconds and unable to walk for 10 meters to, now being able to run and hike. And, I shoveled the entire car a few days ago, um, where, it'd been like the truck had passed and like just put compacted snow just like all on one side of the car, stuck to it, and a good meter high. And I spent about an hour and a half shoveling, and I did it. And I didn't, Jan came home from work and he didn't have to do that for me. And the little victories like this have really been really quite extraordinary for me. um, Illness breaks you down on so many levels, and in many ways it breaks down the trust that you have towards your own body and towards your own mind. Um, and I've been over the year 2015, I have been trying to rebuild that trust. And so it was very nice for me to feel like independent, like I can take care of my own car, our car, but I can do that stuff. I remember when I returned from Argentina in April, I was already feeling better. I believe I was somewhere around 70% at that point. Um, but I remember sitting on my couch for hours on end and just having this tremendous fear of going to the store to buy groceries. I might have talked about it in a video. I can't remember anymore. But this fear that this just like not numbing, but this like paralyzing fear where I would kind of see myself going into that store and then in the middle of the aisle being unable to move and being confused and being lost and just falling to the ground and crying and having nobody there around to help me. Um, and so I spend many weeks when I return home back then from Argentina, kind of sitting in that trauma at home and with very little trust in myself and my capabilities um, and so it's been a long road trying to rebuild that and kind of seeing oh well there are still issues in my life. It isn't like Lyme disease was the only problem that I had. um, and I'm seeing certain things surface. Certain childhood traumas are resurfacing for me, um, in a mental but also in a physical way, and I'm learning to discern um, traumatic pains from illness pains, and it's a whole complicated thing to try to do to get out of illness, especially since I was out for so many months, with kind of no end in sight. Um, but I'm slowly rebuilding that trust. A few weeks ago, I went to Cuba for a week by myself, just in an all-inclusive. But I very much wanted to go by myself, to kind of show myself that that I can take care of myself. Jan has been a tremendous help in my life and through this illness and through it all. But we've also had to learn to not have that codependent relationship anymore, where not only do I have to learn that I can take care of myself and trust myself, but Jan has had to learn that he does not have to worry about me first and foremost. That if something's going not great with me, it doesn't have to be his responsibility, because that's been a traumatic thing for him as well. The amount of pressure that he's carried around with him, especially over 2014, where it was all kind of in his hands to save my life. And so that's also brought some traumatic experiences to him. And so, there's a lot of these unsticking to do, and life and healing takes time. So in an effort to continue with this unsticking and building more trust with myself, and life and the world. Well, I'm Jan actually left for a week now, so I'm going to be away from him for a few days, and then I'm going away on a meditation retreat for 10 days, silent meditation, um, and I look forward to it. I know it might come with its challenges. In fact, I'm certain it will come with its challenges, but it's another step in my journey of acceptance of where I'm at and where it is and what life is, and kind of continuing that unsticking process of sticky mind and sticky body. So that's my update for today. Again, I wish everyone the best of years. I think 2016 is a really nice number. And for that reason, I think it's going to be a great year, and for other reasons as well. I'm filled with hope, and I hope so are you in this beginning of year. And no matter where you're at in terms of your health, be it physical or mental, know that a lot can happen in a year, a lot can happen sometimes in a month, and you never know the beautiful things that are waiting for you just around the corner.